What's going on, everybody? My name is Jason DiPietro. I'm a 49-year-old disabled veteran. Uh, I am married currently. I have two grown children that are unfortunately not in my life, but I do have a 17-year-old stepdaughter who has been in my life since she's been four. Again, I am from the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania area. Um, Work in mental health. I'm a therapist. Went back to school as an adult, which was very challenging, but I actually enjoy my job. I enjoy my life now. I've learned a lot throughout my experiences, through my journey, and I appreciate you having me on your podcast tonight.
All right, man. I appreciate you. Welcome to the show. But before we get into that, let me back up real quick. Everybody, welcome back to Mind Over Emotions, the podcast. As always, I'm your host, Herc. And as I always tell you guys, make sure you guys always have a support system, have somebody you can reach out to, speak to. I feel like personally, unlike Jason here, I am not a therapist, but I have lost people and dealt with people who have mental health issues, including myself. And one thing I've learned over the years is that just beginning to talk and feel comfortable is like a good step in the right direction. And if you haven't already, hit that share button. Follow us on Instagram at Mind Over Emotions, the podcast. That same handle on TikTok. If you'd like to be on the show, shoot us an email to mindoveremotions, the podcast at gmail.com, or you may shoot me a text message to the podcast phone number at area code 702-525-6118. All right, Jason. Hey, first, um, thank you for your service with stepping out and doing mental health and being a therapist to people. Before we get into your story, how did you become a therapist?
So after my second marriage ended, and I ended up actually moving in with another veteran that I grew up with. He was struggling at the time too, and he needed support along the way. So right when my relationship ended, he was actually looking for a roommate on Roommate Finder, and it just happened to just circumstances lined up the way they were. I reached out to him. I said, "Why would you move in with a stranger? I'll move in with you for the time being. Let's get our lives together. Let's get straight. Let's figure out where we want to go from here and let's move forward in a positive direction." So I moved in with him. We lived in West Philly, beautiful area of University City, and it was just very convenient. We both made it very easy on each other, helping each other in any ways that we could. And then we both actually met a girl right around the same time frame. Um, and then those women became big parts of our life. And then as towards the end of our lease came upon us, we had both made the decision that maybe it was time that we moved in with those ladies. So we both approached our girlfriends because they were in the same position as well. And then we moved in together. My wife Amy and his wife Joy have been a huge support system for me. And I'm talking every bit of my life down to deciding back to going back to college. I was 35 when she actually introduced the idea of going back to school as an adult. And I'm not going to lie to you, her it scared the shit out of me because I hadn't been very productive in my life. Prior to meeting her, I had just gotten out of prison for doing, some illegal activities. And ultimately, that decision led me to become a therapist. I went back to school, ironically, to be an optometrist. And then I thought, how boring would it be to sit in the office all day, tell people to cover their right eye, cover their left eye? It was meaningful. So I flipped the switch. I told her, hey, I want to get into psychology. I want to try to help, addiction and alcohol specifically, because it ran rapid through my home. My mom died very young from the disease at 50. My sister also passed away from the disease at 44. So I felt like things lined up the way they did for me to give back, just like you said, in a different manner. So I work inpatient now, not too far from my home, and I work with, man, 80 to 100 people a day.
Jeez.
And I love what I do. I absolutely love it.
Well, again, like I said, I appreciate you. I'll speak for all the people who actually care about mental health and care about people. I appreciate you and the service that you do on a daily basis. But let's take it back to when you were a kid. Did you come from a two-parent whole household?
I did, but it was a mess of a household. Again, it was littered with drugs and alcohol. My mom was very introverted, and she was an alcoholic. That was her biggest problem. And then when my father and so my father is not my real dad. He's my adopted father, but I was so young that I didn't know. He actually didn't tell me until I was a teenager. And then they had a daughter who was obviously my stepdaughter, my stepsister. Um, and she unfortunately went down the path of destruction as well, like I said. So the house was chaotic. At times, yes, it was a two-income family, so I was left alone at a very young age. Walked back and forth to school with my sister, first through 12th grade for the most part. Um, my house was so chaotic, and I really hope my dad doesn't watch this, because he's told me the things that he suffered with, but this might hurt him a bit. It was very chaotic, and we see that down the line. But he did the best he could for us. Always had a roof over my head, always had food on the table, but the chaotic nature that went on within the household led me to go to school every day. I was a perfect attendance student up until 12th grade. My senior year, I realized how easy it was to cut. But I hated my house so much that I went to school every day, even though I was a clown. Like I wasn't academically, superior. I was a mid-level C, D student. If, I didn't try. I didn't care. I wanted the attention that I wasn't getting from at home.
Okay.
So I acted
I
out.
was gonna ask you, when it comes to your childhood, what's like a bad memory and what's also a good memory that you have from there?
So I tell this story a lot because it's one of the biggest moments that stick out in my head, and it took place when I was 5, and it was a happy and a traumatic moment in the same. It was meshed together. I'm coming up on my 50th birthday in June. So when I was 5, my dad gave me a bicycle for my birthday. Now, he was an old school guy. We were raised by the hand, like a lot of people in my generation. He was adamant about teaching me how to ride that bicycle with no training wheels. So all day long, riding that bike, crashing it into the walls. First, you get going straight, you get the pedaling down, you're going straight's good. You forget how to brake, you can't turn. Whole day. I'm talking like 8, 9 hours out there all day. And at the end of the day, it was successful. I learned how to ride the bike
In one day?
in one day. In
Oh,
one
dang.
day, learned how to ride it around. And so the next couple of days, riding around got more comfortable. At the end of the week, that's when things kind of got a little hairy. I started showing off in front of the older kids in the neighborhood. They built a ramp, built up my speed, hit that ramp, went off it awkwardly, broke my left leg. Now, I wasn't supposed to be out of the house because I was 5. My mom and dad were at work at the time, so I was already up to no good. I rode my bike all the way home, put it away, walked up the steps, got a bag of ice, laid on the couch, put it on my leg, and waited to get beat before going to the hospital. So that is why that memory sticks out so deep. And I tell that story to a lot of my patients because, like you said, a lot of people, their childhood, they don't realize the oddities, the non-typical parenting that went on when they were kids, because when you grow up that way, it's normalized. It seems like, hey, I guess every other kid is also brought up this way.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah,
that is definitely.
do you think that well, first off, let's just address the fact that you rode your bike home with a broken leg. That's crazy. And went up the stairs. Um, I guess my question for you with that whole scenario, it would be um being raised that way where you knew you're gonna get a spanking, right? for something you did. Do you think that the lack of spankings right now is a representation or the reason for the way that the youth are today?
Um, yeah, I'm conflicted on that because I didn't raise my kids that way. Like I said earlier, I lost two children along the route, but while they were under my hand, I spoke to them as young children and young adults as they grew up and pinpointed the things that they were doing wrong and maybe give them some sort of punishment. But I never laid a finger on my children. They were disciplined in different ways. With the way this generation is brought up now, the technology is more important, unfortunately, than going outside and investing in that social atmosphere. So you got to kind of switch the flip a little bit by taking what they really like, which is their phone, their technology, their computer, whatever it may be, and give them a break from that. Make them go outside. Make them take the dogs for a walk. Make them go hang out with their friends. Now that my stepdaughter is 17, she has her driver's license. She's actually getting outside more. She's going to the grocery store and getting things for herself. She's driving herself to the mall. She's doing these things on her own because she's introverted. She likes to stay inside too. And we see that now in this generation more than ever. We
I think
see
not to cut you off, but I think that it's like a catch 22 when it comes to getting your kids to go outside. Because I was speaking to recently speaking to my brother about this, and I was saying that I don't see so many kids outside anymore. And he said, you know, if I grew up right now, I'd probably be inside too. You know, you got 13-year-olds outside with 30 sticks and, you know, like all these guns and stuff.
Mhm.
He's like, I'd probably just be like a big gamer. So as somebody who's in the psychology field, what advice would you give to like somebody who's a parent who's raising a young adult right now with trying to balance social media influence versus also getting them to be social just in real life?
they need to find their authentic self.
Mm.
They need to find some authenticity, right? Like I know who I was as a child, even though I grew up in chaos. I needed that chaos. And it's constant now in my life. I play hockey still. I snowboard still. I scuba dive still. I still jump out of airplanes. I ride motorcycles. So when I say this, it's going to sound a little odd, but children in this generation need some kind of controlled chaos to know that feeling of adrenaline. So they'll know what it's like to actually have that feeling of excitement and then find their place in life. Unless you try these things, you're not going to know if you're interested. When you sit on, I know what it's like to sit on a game and play. It's fun. I get it. I didn't grow up in that time frame, but when I go over to my friend's house, I'll play Madden or I'll play NHL. I know what it's like to play sport. It's fun, but to do it outside with other people, it brings a different camaraderie of friendship because you get to express your feelings face to face, make body contact, have interaction with multiple people that you might not even know. Like, for instance, I joined a local league around here, so I learn other people that play hockey. I just moved to this area just outside of Philadelphia. I live in Willow Grove now, so I don't really know anyone around here. So what I do is I go play hockey. I look for a team that's looking for a player. I say, hey, I'm available. They throw me on the squad. I show up. I meet a whole locker room of new people to play hockey with, and then I meet a whole ice of people to play hockey with. So now my support system has opened up even more. And I think that's what children are lacking right now, or young adults, is the support system, the true support where you can talk and feed off one another when you're feeling down.
Would you say that it's your opinion that instead of the lack of discipline within the home is the issue, but it's more or less the fact that kids spend majority of their time on social media and they lack social skills. So then when they actually do go outside, they don't know how to like involve themselves and like cohabit with other people their age.
Yes, absolutely. And earlier when we were discussing me going back to school at 35, I noticed it my freshman year. You're sitting in a classroom, me being 35, everybody else being 18 or 19 years old. I led every lecture.
Mm,
I led every discussion. I led every group project because there was no willingness within the classroom unless it was on the phone or the computer. They didn't want to talk in a study group. They didn't want to get together and talk amongst each other. They wanted to do everything through Zoom, which is great. Zoom has broadened the horizons for therapy as well. I'm at the point now where I can just talk to my therapist and say, "Hey, I had a pretty good day. I'm chilling. We don't even need to talk today.
mm,
Thank you for reaching out." Some days I'm like, I need to come in, speak to you because it needs to be a face to face. Something happened really difficult in my life and I need to get it out. Um, so, yes, I do believe, but there also needs to be subtle ways when children do need their space. And I use this alternative way that is nonverbal. I just put either my headphones on, turn up the volume, and when they come off, I'm ready to interact with the family again. Or I'd have a Bluetooth speaker, and when I'm really down, that goes up real loud so they know not to come downstairs at all until I'm ready to interact again. And that I think that's an important factor.
okay. And not to jump around, but I did want to ask you this question. Growing up, right, with all your influences that you had around you as a kid, what kind of messages did you receive of how men should handle emotions?
Um, Suppress them. Forge on, look past it and move forward. My grandfather was in World War II. He was in Battle of the Bulge. He died very young, so I didn't get to talk to him or get inside his head. But he had six children. One of those children was my mother, who ironically had me out of wedlock, didn't have a father figure. She became a drug addict, alcoholic, died at 50. My uncle Jerry, which was the oldest brother, he also went down the path of addiction, was murdered and thrown in a dumpster. My uncle Michael and my uncle Lee. My uncle Lee was my closest because he was only 10 years older than me. So we had a very close bond. But he had a massive stroke at 34 from doing steroids. He lost complete control of his entire left side. Um, and my Aunt Patty was a good woman, but she dabbled in drugs too. But down the line, she became a born again Christian and she changed her life completely. Um, and my uncle Don, he was the only one of the family to graduate from college. So, was there a lack of parental discussions? Was there a lack of discipline? Probably the discipline was probably there, but being a veteran from World War II, probably no talking going on within the family. Zero, probably absolutely no discussion between parents and kids if they were to act out. They were probably just beat, sent right to their room, come out the next day, period. Um, the only reason why I see it is because I timelined my life out and I saw and I tracked the patterns. And I said, this is more than just mental health. This is generational, is definitely environmental, and I'm feeling more and more that it is also biological. I think it's sent down through your genetics.
Now, you see, because like I told you, I don't have questions. So I just listen. So I do have a question. I had another question, but I'm gonna ask you this one. Um, how do you feel like it's biological?
So in my case, again, and I've had a lot of friends that went down the same path because my mother um, was influenced by a lot of people that where I grew up. They all grew up the same way. They were all hippies. They all did drugs. They were all frivolous back then.
Mhm.
And I noticed within my generation alone how many friends that I have lost because of this too. All of them had issues within the family dynamic with drugs and alcohol,
Mm.
stemming back generations. So the only way to get a clear view is if you do, it's called epigenetics, and
What's that?
is looking back beyond generations that you comprehend, right? We can understand our grandparents, but do we really understand our great grandparents? And even more, what happened with our great grandparents in the early 1900s, right? We
Mhm.
have no clue. We never really got to understand who those people were, how they lived their lives. Culturally, we do. We understand how it went on
Yeah.
during that time culturally. But as far as mental health, I mean, now that we're talking about cultural influences, imagine your generation, back generations, how much internal dilemma and stress and anxiety and depression and just angst every day that they lived.
Yeah.
That has to get passed on from generation to generation within the bloodline.
Yeah. Now, with that being said, since you said that, you believe that's biological, so would you say that coming from like yourself, would you say that you struggled not knowing who your biological father was? Do you think that that caused a lot of your problems?
Absolutely. I saw, so this, I don't even know if this is true because I can't find any record of him. I know his name is Samuel Catalina
Mm.
only because I found my birth certificate, and on my birth certificate it said Jason Samuel Catalina. And then on the back it was revised to Jason Eugene DiPietro, who is my current father, Eugene DiPietro. And I also noticed when I was a kid that all my mother's prescription pills said Linda Catalina, but I never questioned it because I was so little.
Yeah.
I didn't understand why there were so many names being thrown around. Because I know that in the beginning my parents weren't married. My dad and my stepdad and my mother. So I never really questioned it. What really threw me off was when he told me as I was maturing. I think I was like 14 or 15 when he said, because that's when I started growing. My dad was a very, very short Italian fella. My real father, obviously, he was also Italian, but he was tall. I saw one picture of him and it was from the 70s. So the picture was very blurry. I couldn't really get a good look at him. He had a beautiful set of hair, which thankfully I got some nice lettuce on here too. But um, only one picture of him. I was told that he passed away at a very young age as well, but I don't know any more than that. When my father Eugene told me, I said, "Hey, I know you as my dad. I'm gonna still call you dad. Like you're the one that provided me through thick and thin. You put a roof over my head. You provided for me. You bought me clothes when I needed clothes. You're my dad. I see no difference." So that's how I took that. I mean, he cared for me my whole life, so I can't
Yeah.
be that mad at him.
So growing up in a family where drugs, alcohol, and obviously, like you said, not knowing who your biological father was, um, you said there's a lot of chaos and conflict going on. When did mental health become something like? When did you become aware of like the importance of mental health and what it actually was?
When I went to prison,
Okay, can I ask what did you go to prison for?
trafficking. Yeah, I would fly to Cali and come back to Philly.
Okay,
With,
how
with a
long did you
suit,
go to prison for?
I got a 6 year sentence because it was my first time ever being arrested. So I got a 6 year sentence, and they cut it in half for three.
Okay.
But I was in Illinois, so I got caught in Chicago. um, a lot of people don't know, and they think that California has the worst prisons, Texas has the worst prisons. I'm gonna tell you right now, Chicago has the worst prison system in all of this country. It is bad. It is bad. It is bad. It is bad. But I got very, very lucky. I got lucky and I didn't get lucky because Illinois is so overpopulated with inmates. I got sent right to a max facility, even though it was just a they broke it down to a trafficking and possession of cannabis at the time. So I went right into a cell with a guy that had been locked up before I was born. 1974, he got locked up for a triple homicide.
Jeez.
Right. And he told me right off the bat, he was like, "You're a square. You don't belong in prison. You, you need, you need,
The
you
best
need to
compliment
get."
ever.
Yep. He said, "Do your shit right. Do what I tell you while you're here. Keep your nose clean. Hang out with everybody, and you'll be good. Do your 3 years and get it going." So he was the porter of the unit. He washed everybody's clothes. He gave out everybody's trays, and all he wanted me to do was keep the room clean because I had all the money coming in. I didn't have any problems with keeping my books filled. So I had real meat and chicken, and I made real burritos because I had people in the chow hall bringing bags of lettuce back to the cell, and people just loved me because I was having like 5 or 6 books mailed to me every week. So my cell was loaded with books, people borrowing books, and just that humility, being humble, understanding where you come from, listening to your elders. He got me through with no issues. I mean, I saw some stuff. You're gonna see some stuff in the math
You're
facility.
knocking on the door. The question I have for you.
You're not gonna see you're gonna see some stuff in prison in a max facility that you would expect, but I never got into any issues. I played handball on the yard with all the Latinos. I played basketball with everybody in the gym. I played softball with everybody on the field. We played some football sometimes when we had the opportunities. Um, but other than that, I saw somebody, get killed in the mess hall. I saw somebody commit suicide, jump off the third floor, and land right on his head, unfortunately. So you're going to see that. And, the gang violence that goes on out in the yard, even though you only get a little bit of time, that's when it comes down to getting it in. Luckily, I was back last row, last seat in the arena, just watching. I didn't take part in nothing. I did exactly what my cellmate told me to do. I earned a little bit of good time by going to the drug and alcohol program while I was there because I did struggle too when I got out of that. Excuse me. Because I was in the airborne unit, I have both my hips replaced. I broke my tib and fib, my wrist, my elbow, my jaw in 2 places. So during that time frame of healing, I was on all kinds of painkillers, and for 5 years I struggled until someone was like, "Yo, you need some help." And then I checked myself into the Coatesville VA for a little while, and got everything under control. And that's another reason why I advocate for mental health and being strong and being willing to put yourself out there. That's the first part. If you're able to tell your story, then you're able to survive.
Mm,
You're able to get through it. I tell everybody every single time I see somebody that is struggling, tell your story. Learn how to get your story down in like 10 or 15 minutes so you can summarize your life. When you hear it out loud and you tell yourself, it feels like a little bit is released. A
mm,
little bit of that pain is being released. It's always going to be there.
yeah.
There's no magic pill yet. There's no shot we can take to get in deep in that amygdala. There's no way. But that's where all the memories are stored. And what I try to tell everybody is if you concentrate hard enough, all those happy memories are in there. They're in there. They're just waiting to be processed. They're waiting to be remembered. They're waiting to come back into the light, and they're waiting for you to share it with somebody. Pull those positive memories out because they're there. We laughed. We laughed as children. We did, even though there was pain, even though there was trauma. We laughed. I just told you a good story about learning how to ride my bike. I shared a nice little memory today about elementary school and going down them metal slides in the middle of the summer. And
Sheesh.
so, you have a good time, even though there might be some trauma linked to it. There is some happiness that coincides, and that's what you gotta find.
So with going to prison, what did you notice most like prominent about yourself before and after, like the change?
Listening, communicating, and more importantly, this is probably the most important advice: learning the female body, the hormones. Because if you do not understand what your partner is going through as a woman, you are not going to make the relationship last. And I ignored all the signals in my prior relationships and I just focused on myself and what made me happy. What I do now, and what I have been doing is inviting her into that authenticity of myself. She gets on my motorcycle. I learned that's all right. She learned how to snowboard with me. She does some of these things with me, but more importantly is I understand the ups and downs that come with the female hormones. And that's what a lot of dudes don't get. They don't understand the fluctuations in the mood temperament. They're not always angry on purpose. They're not always mad at you.
Yeah.
They just might be upset because they don't even know why.
They got so much
And
going on with their body. They don't. I was
they
watching.
don't
I
even
watched.
know.
My mom showed me a reel the other day, and it was talking about the difference in the changes that women go through and how it affects. Pretty much, it was like as a man, you're dating like 12 different women at once because like when they're going have their period, before their period, after the period,
Yep.
pregnant, menopause, all that kind of stuff, and it was kind of interesting. I actually felt like it kind of clicked and made sense with everything. But I did want to ask you too before we move on from your prison experience, because I realized that now prison inmates they have access to the internet, and I
Yeah.
see an inmate comment on a video that I posted. What advice, if an inmate is watching right now, what advice would you give him or her to like just dealing with the prison life and when they get out, adapting back to regular life?
All right. So, um, prison ain't cool. That's number one. Shit's corny. Whatever they say nowadays, shit ain't cool. All right. It doesn't give you no street cred. People forget about it as soon as you're back into civilian life. They already forgot about it. That's the transition back into becoming a civilian again. It's kind of like the military. You don't have a lot of time to get it. So while you're in there, you need to advocate for yourself. If you do have a strong support system while you are in prison, get them on the phone, get you ready to implement everything that you learned if you were one of those people that wanted to learn while you were in prison, because believe it or not, it is a very important learning experience. I met a lot of very intelligent people in prison. If you're able to implement those little things that you learned while you were in prison. And I'm talking about the intelligent stuff, I'm not talking about learning how to make hot pots and, ramen burritos and shit. I'm talking real stuff. Know that it's not that you don't want that for your life. You don't want that system. If you continue to rotate in and out of prison, it's going to be just like recovery. If you don't stop and get a handle on it, it's going to be your life for the rest of your life. It's like I tell people at work, This is a ridiculous statistic, but it's real. People that smoke cigarettes, right, that are addicted to alcohol or drugs and smoke cigarettes. While you're in my facility, it's smoke free, right? So most of my patients are in there to 2 to 3 weeks. In my opinion, you already beat smoking. You already beat it. You already beat it. You're done. Why go back to it? They go back to it, they're 82% more likely to relapse. So if the people coming out of prison go back to the same thing that they're doing, they're 82% more likely to go back to prison as well. So they got to focus on who they are, like we talked about earlier, that authentic self. They got to fill their time with the things that they love to do. Don't just get a job because you need a job. Get a job because you want a job.
Mm,
Get a job because you're passionate about your job. Don't just get a job because you need money and let the time click go by because you're not doing it. You're just doing a disfavor to yourself and to your employer.
mm,
We see those people that show up to work and have good intentions and are just there for the dollars. That's the most important part when you come out of prison. No matter how much time you spent in prison, that's what you got to implement in your life. It's that that reintroduction, right? So if let's say you had 2 years in prison, you probably like need like a good year to readjust back to civilian lifestyle by talking to mental health professionals, talking to vocational rehab assistants, finding people to help you get living arrangements. Like this is all stuff that usually happens, excuse me, to people that come to my work because they're coming right out of prison, right out of jail, or homeless
mm.
and don't have the needs to find all of that stuff. Sometimes they don't have IDs, they don't have nothing. So start the preparation to re-entering civilian lifestyle as early and as quick as you can while you are an inmate and seek out the ones that are willing to give you good advice, the ones that sit back in a corner, the
Okay.
ones that were like me and my old cellmate.
Okay. So I was going to pivot the conversation just a little bit. I want to know, in your opinion, do you think that the typical ideology of what a man's masculinity should be, do you think that that has either hurt you growing up or helped you growing up?
um, in the beginning, I think it helped me because I was an athlete. Sorry, the weather change is messing me up.
We both got the little cough going on.
Yup. Let me get a little sip of water real
Okay,
quick.
go ahead.
So growing up as an athlete, I think it helped because it made me more aggressive. It made me want to compete more. It made me want to be stronger. It made me want to be better. As I progressed through time and started gaining real knowledge, I then realized how important it was to be vulnerable. I learned how important it was to actually be humble, talk about the things that are bothering you because letting it build up, for me at least, just brought out rage. Even when I went to do the things that I loved to do, whether it be hockey, I would fight. I would fight every game. I would just seek out a player and go, I'm going to fuck him up tonight just because I don't like the way his mustache looks. Right? Even motorcycle riding, right? I had before I traded it, I actually just wrecked my Harley last July. But before I traded that bike in, I had a Sportster. And again, that adrenaline, that chaos, I took the mirrors off. I put motorbike handlebars on it, took the turn signals off, put stubby tires on it, and rode it around like a lunatic. And if a cop was to come chase me, I can just bounce off into the woods, even though I was on my Harley because I had dirt bike wheels on it. So I was still like, my wife still calls, she's like, you better not be living that scallywag life that you used to live no more.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not living like that anymore. But yes, I definitely see as I progress, not only do I become more humble, but I'm more vulnerable and I'm more apt to talk about what's going on. Like right now, I was struggling with the VA with some documents, and I had to go get a divorce degree, and it just couldn't be found. And I'm just reeling in my head about my ex-wife, and that was the one that cheated on me. And I'm just reeling and I'm reeling. And I'm in the county where she lives, and I know the street that she lives on, and I know the address, and I see the house in my head, and I'm like, man, do I want to go over there right now and let her know how I feel? And then I was like, my life is perfect right now. I got a great family. I got a great support system. I'm not even going to put that in my head. As head is out, is gone, is out, and I'm back on the road. So, um, yes, slowing yourself down, um, being more humble. There's nothing wrong with being vulnerable. We all have it. If we keep it built up, it's just going to hurt us in the end. It's really going to hurt you in the end.
You keep taking my questions. You keep answering. I was about to ask you, because we live in a society right now where, especially where women like to say that men these days aren't real men because they are being vulnerable or they are tapped into their emotions, and they say like, oh, they're sissified now, right? So in a world like that, I agree totally that, you know, us as men, not only just men, but as a society, we need to find people that we can be more vulnerable with, have those people we can be vulnerable with because like you said earlier about like, you were taught as a man to suppress your problems, suppress your emotions. And then as you got older now, I believe doing that, it causes you to become more aggressive, right? And sometimes aggression is misconstrued as alphaness, right? And because you're the loudest in the room, you're the most with your chest pumped up, you're the alpha in the room, but actually you're really not. You're the most emotional one in the room that needs to kind of like learn how to express that emotion properly, right? So what kind of advice would you give to like men these days about being able to be vulnerable, being able to express their emotions, being able to still be quote unquote alpha when I think in today's society, alpha, the whole alpha thing is kind of out the window. But in a society like that, what kind of advice would you give men?
Man, I wish I would have had this saying that I had in one of my groups the other day because it was perfect. And I wish I could remember it line for line, but I'm going to try my best. We all deal with mental issues on a day to day basis, every single one of us. Even if you look at the most typical, average, happiest person out there, they are dealing with some internal stigma as well. They may look happy, they may portray happiness, they may fit the bill of happiness, but they are struggling some way too, and they just don't know how to let it go. So for the ones that hold their pride above their heads still and want to continue to be that alpha, you need to reach out to your best friend. You need to reach out to someone that you talk to every single day and say, I've been waiting too long to say something, and I'm going to say it right now. And then we can leave it at that and we can discuss it on another time. But I want to let you know this is how I feel. I wasn't able to do that until I broke down and I was like, I need someone to talk to, and I don't know who it's going to be. And it was that fella earlier. His name is Jason Gunn. I grew up with my whole life and I moved in with eventually. And we both are now both married for 12 years to the girls we met together. Um, and another thing that I want to say too about that alphaness, there's a way to get that alpha male out of you. and I'm gonna pan around the room real quick. I'm not an artist by any means, but this is how I create and I build my alphaness. What you see around this room right now is all artwork that I do on my own, and this is how I get it all out. I go get pieces. This was just a blank piece of paper, fake hundreds, and I just sit down here and whatever's going through my head I just put it on some art, and this is how my alpha stuff comes out.
Mm.
This is my alpha. Like what if,
Yeah.
right? What
Yeah.
if? What if you were a little more vulnerable? What
Mm.
if you were a little more humble? You don't know until you try.
Exactly. Yeah.
Another good example is we just discussed I'm a therapist, right? But I also have restaurant experience back when I was young. My work, four people quit at the kitchen at the same time. The whole damn kitchen crew. They looked through, they remembered my resume, which I was also felt good. We know Jason worked at a restaurant. Let's go see if we'll work up in the kitchen in the morning. Yo, you want to work in the kitchen? I was like, am I going to make the same amount of money? Of course, we're not going to dock you. So I said, how long is it going to be? Until we find four new staff members. I said, all right, what's it got to be? Said 6:30 to 2. That's it. I said, hey, it's a little bit of break from my mental health. I work in the kitchen. All I had to do was cut lettuce and tomatoes all day. You got it. No problem. Humbled myself. I was a therapist, but I went into that kitchen, let them kitchen workers take care of me, tell me what to do, get it done, and then back to my regular job. If you don't try, you will never know.
Mm. That's
Period.
that's right.
Period.
With you being a therapist, though, how has your perspective on mental health and like just mental health in the world, how has it changed or altered in the versus how you thought like maybe like 10, 15 years ago?
It's definitely gotten better, but it still needs a lot of improvement. Um, I didn't know this until I actually went back to school. I read a book. Trying to remember the name. I read so many books, I can't remember all the names of them, but um, I read a book that said mental health hadn't really been accurately looked at until 1995. That's only 31 years ago. So we got a long way to go to understand what's going on. Um, so what needs to happen is with the progress of technology, with the advanced research that these doctors are doing, everybody needs to educate themselves on mental health every day. If you're not learning something new every day, then you are failing yourself as a human.
Oh man, I might have to clip that.
You you need to learn something every day in
Mm.
order to succeed, and you will see the changes within you. I prepare myself every day. It's a different structure. Humans love rhythm routine. We love rhythm routine. We do. So when I wake up in the morning, I get a shower and then I turn it to cold to get that little refresh, start my body, reset. And then I just get my day started. I'm ready to rock and roll, eat a little breakfast, drink a little coffee, get to work and get going. That morning shower really does something for your body. It really does a reset. It gets your nervous system wired and ready to go for the day. So I would also tell everybody to implement that little quick 30 seconds of cold shower in the morning.
Mm. I read somewhere, I can't remember exactly where I read, but I read that um, the worst thing you can do for yourself when you wake up is to pick up your phone.
I
Uh,
sleep I sleep with my phone in the living room. It's
okay.
not even in my bedroom anymore.
Uh, but on the flip side of that, I heard that in that same wherever I read that at, they said that the best things that you can do for yourself is first when you first get up, open your blinds, get some sunlight on you, spend about 5 minutes, 2 to 5 minutes stretching, and then also drink 8 ounces of water
Well,
before
yeah.
before you do anything in your day. They said before you brush your teeth, before you eat, before you look at your phone, before you try to have conversations, because they said I forget exactly why, but they said that basically it opens your brain waves to be receptive of the day, the things you're going to have, and you start your day off in a more like a calm mindset. So you ever heard
Yeah.
that?
Yep, I definitely heard of the ingestion of water before anything else during the day. I already know about the importance of sunlight for sure. That vitamin D cannot be supplemented in any other way, so you definitely need to be outside in the sun as often as possible. Um, as far as not brushing your teeth and stuff, I haven't heard any bad or good things about, maybe some mouthwash before you get through anything else. But yeah, because of my body and the way it is, I gotta stretch every day getting out of bed because I'm just full of metal. So stretching is in that daily routine. I don't even think about it. I think I'm in the shower while I'm actually doing the stretching. But whatever your rhythm, whatever your routine what it is, try to keep it the same. I learned something too not long ago about how important rhythm is in our lives. When we're first born, usually the first thing that is done is the baby is placed upon the chest of the mother or the father, whoever it may be. If the mother isn't there or the baby needs to be rushed out of the operating room, the baby's heart syncs up in rhythm to whoever they're laying on.
Mm.
And that rhythm, that dual rhythm heartbeat will never change until they die.
So that's probably why they always tell you that when the baby's young to do the skin to skin.
Yes, the
Yeah,
kangaroo care, skin to skin. Yes,
yeah,
that's
because
why
I
it's
know
so
like
important.
what's odd is with my older three children, they never really implemented that or like enforced that. But I know with my 5 6 month old, I know with him, the doctors were like, they even told me they were like, I remember they said, "Hey mom, here mom, take your baby, skin to skin is best." And then when we got into the room, they told me to do the same thing. I didn't actually hear it, and then my fiance told me, she's like, "Hey,
Make your shirt on.
yeah, take your shirt off and do it." And I think that honestly, I did it with my 2 year old for sure. I remember doing it with him, and I noticed like with them too, like the closeness that we have, the bond that we have, the respect that they have for me as their father is like on a whole nother level, you know. So
Mhm.
I know about that. Let me ask you a question though, because you've been married how long?
Uh, we've been together. Me and my new wife. We've been married since 2018, but we have been together since 2015.
Okay. So, in your opinion, because you know how like I don't know if you're like religious or anything like that, but you know how like in the Bible it says like and you hear all people talk about it, that when a man finds a woman, he finds a good thing, right? What about yourself? You think your wife has changed about you for the better?
Um, what my wife has changed better for me
Yeah. Like,
as a person,
yep.
besides my communication skills, um, she's let me enjoy my life.
Mm.
She lets me be me. There's
Before
there's
you before
no
you go before you go further, the reason why I smiled was because a couple episodes ago, um, maybe a couple episodes, I forget exactly when, but someone asked me a similar question. And I said, matter of fact, no, it wasn't on a podcast at all. It was on the 14th of March, which is when I got engaged. Um
congratulations.
it's out to the world now. A lot of people didn't know, but it's okay. Yeah, I got engaged on March 14th. And one thing that I said about her was when I did the whole proposal thing, it didn't go the way that I wanted it to. But one thing that I made sure everybody knew was why I wanted to marry her was because she was the first woman to allow me to just be me. I didn't have to change. I didn't have to, act like a certain way. She trusts me to lead the family, and she trusts me, with just being my authentic self. I don't have to like, like that saying goes, fake it till you make it. I don't have to do that.
Yep.
I could just be Herc, and whether no matter what that is, I just can be the best version of Herc, and I feel like a lot of times people, either male or female, get in these relationships and they feel like they have to change.
Yep.
And so they're not their authentic self. And then what happens is they get deep in that relationship, and you're gonna always eventually revert back to who you are. And then it causes conflict because now you're really trying to change each other, and it's just never gonna work. So
Yep.
I just thought first, I don't know your wife, obviously, but if she watches this, I want to commend her on allowing you, because I think that's the best thing for a man, is to be himself, to be able to be who he truly is, the positive version of himself for sure. Um,
Absolutely.
so I commend her for that. But go ahead, sorry.
Yep. There's just no lock and key, like you were saying. She allows me to do those controlled, chaotic things in my life. And the only thing she says to me is, don't complain when you get hurt. That's it. I don't want to hear shit from you when you get hurt, because pretty much every year since we met, I've been hurt in some way or form. Last year, I fell off a cliff snowboarding and broke all my ribs. Um, like I said, we've been together. Both my hips have been replaced. She's been through that with me. Um, she's just like, don't tell me you got hurt when you come home from hockey. Don't complain about your bruises. Don't complain about your hands. Don't complain about your feet. I don't want to hear it. You're going to do it. I'm allowing you to do it. You love it. I'm not going to stop it. Just don't complain about it. And I still complain.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what they're there for. They're almost like your second mom in a sense. As
Yep.
soon, when you're younger, you get in an accident, you cry, mom, mom, and then when you get older, whatever your girl's name, as soon as you get hurt, that's what you're yelling for. You're looking for her. Call my wife.
Yep.
Call my girl. You know.
Yep.
So, but that's dope, man. Um, I have one last question for you, man. Obviously, the premise of my podcast is mental health. We've been on that topic this whole time. What advice, as a therapist, as a just authentic real man, what advice would you give to somebody who's watching this, who's battling with any kind of like mental health disorders and like suicidal ideations?
All right. Get on the crisis line. Don't be afraid of that crisis line. I've used it a few times with my wife right in bed. All right. Sometimes um, we need advice from someone else than our current support system, especially internal. It might be too much sometimes, because a lot of times that our crises come in the middle of the night. We either wake up from a nightmare, or we're reeling in our head and can't get to sleep, and your partner's already asleep and you don't want to wake them up because they got to get up in the morning and go to work, and we feel bothersome. That crisis line is there for a reason, and it works. The first thing they ask you, and like I said, I've called it a couple times, is, do you need EMT or cops to respond? That's the first thing you add. And I say, nope, I just need to talk to somebody. I got some stuff going on in my head. I don't want to bother anybody in the house right now. It's 3 o'clock in the morning, blah, blah, blah. The person on the other line is like an angel. It's like your grandmom plus 10 on the other line, or your grandpa plus 10. They're willing to just let you talk. This is another important thing. I'm sorry to keep going back and forth,
You're
but
fine, man.
active listening.
Mm.
You need someone that's going to just shut up and listen to you, and not always have the answer, and not always have advice. But sometimes you need to just zip this John up and just open your ears and listen to what that person has to say, because sometimes what they're saying is the answer,
Hmm.
and you just need to clarify. Give them a head nod, give them a look in the eye, and I know how you feel. What else you got to say? We as humans, we're constantly thinking to interact. We're conversationalists. We
Yeah.
want to go back and forth with each other, but sometimes it's not necessary. And for the people that really are struggling, that are watching this episode, I cannot urge you enough to reach out to somebody. in that moment of distress, because you do not want to go from ideations to planning, because usually once the plan is in place, it's too late. And I'm sure, just like you and just like me, there's too many people that have been affected by suicide. And if you are not aware, and it's unfortunate that I am aware, the ripple effect from a suicide is 145 people on average. That's how many people are affected by one. So please do yourself a favor. Do those 145 people that are in your life, even though you don't think they are, do them a favor and reach out for help. Call me, shit. Call me. Send me an email. Do whatever you got to do. I'll leave my email and my information with her. Call me. I know we're on the other side of the country, but I got friends in Cali too.
Man, listen, you hit on a lot of things right there. I don't want to speak too much. I am just going to say I appreciate your advice because one, for myself, you kind of what's the word I'm looking for? You kind of reassured me that like even with just, with my platform that I'm providing that I'm doing things somewhat in the right direction, Um, meaning like that's why, like I said, I don't come up with questions because I want to active listen. I feel like that active listening plays such a big part in people's just their mentality, their self-esteem, um, their self-worth, all that. Because if I show up with questions, right, and I'm just reading off a script and I'm just like, okay, I got this question, I got this question, right? Every episode is going to feel the same. The people are going to get bored. People watching is going to get bored. Um, but by me allowing you just asking, letting you talk, and then me asking questions for clarity or just like your opinion on things, it one lets you for if let's just say no one you have nobody at home who listens to you, right? For this moment, this hour, this 45 minutes, whatever it is that we're on here, so you have one person who actually gave you a space, a platform to be heard, and that's what it's all about, right?
Yep.
And then also, like the reaching out, right? I always tell people, like it doesn't matter if it's, like people. I've gotten criticism, not criticism, just people ask me, like, like you're crazy. You're putting your phone number on here. Well, truth be told, the number that's I put on here, that's a business line. I don't just walk around with it. So if you call it, there's a high probability that I might not answer, right? But I'll see it eventually. But I also do that because just the chance that you do call and I see it, maybe you're calling to be on the podcast, or maybe you're calling because you just need somebody to talk to. I don't know. When I see it, I answer, right? And so it's just another form of people, for people to reach out. But I always tell people, um, it don't matter what time of day. You can message me on all my social media platforms. You can, if you have my direct number, you can message me there, and I'll call you. We can talk, or I can listen to you. But I always tell people I'm not a therapist. I'm just somebody who has lost one too many people to not being there for them or not, like, 'cause I don't want to say just to mental health, but sometimes I feel like as the survivors, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, um, I just feel like the survivors sometimes we don't do all that we should. We say that we're going to be there, but you know, I heard somebody, let me just clear this up real quick. I heard somebody say this to me. They said that the problem is when people they cry wolf. I'm like, for when it comes to like mental health issues or somebody going through something, you can cry wolf 1,000 times, 1,001 times. I'm going to answer the phone. 1,001 times I'm going to be there. I'm going to show up for you because I'm not going to say any names, but I have people who I've lost and they cried wolf multiple times. They talked about, doing it multiple times. And then unfortunately, they're not here right now. And
Mhm.
but every time that they called me, I was there for them. It's just they had their own struggles. So I really like to say to the people who think that, who have that mindset, I want to personally say to them, keep picking the phone up, keep being an ear to them because the one time they might have cried wolf, they might not have been crying wolf. You answering the call every time is what got them off the ledge. You don't answer it that one time, and then something happens, you're going to regret it forever. You're going to be a part of the 145 that you talked about, and you're going to have regrets.
Yep.
So, um, I appreciate you coming on, man. What do you
I
think about the
appreciate
podcast?
you.
First,
Fantastic.
I'll always ask people what they think about a podcast. I want to ask you a question because I
Yeah.
told you in the beginning, we're gonna do things a little different. What do you first think about the podcast name, Mind Over Emotions? What does that mean to you?
Um, it means that you can talk about the smallest distraction in the world or one of the biggest events that has ever plagued you. I think it's perfect. It's
Okay.
perfect. Perfect.
Let me tell you why I chose the name, right? So I struggled in the beginning with what name I wanted to make the podcast, right? Or what I wanted to name the podcast. My brother, who's the father of my niece, who's on the wall behind me, who she passed away as well. Let me show this too. This is her.
Oh man,
Uh,
beautiful.
yeah, she
Sorry for it.
she passed away at 24 in 2024.
Mm.
But her father, my brother, he told me, he was like, I was battling with it, and then he came to me and he was like, I had like a different variation of mind over emotions. And he tells me mind over emotions, and then I sat and pondered about it, and I was like, yeah, that's it. Because truthfully, I feel like that if we as people, we learn to have a stronger mindset and a stronger mentality, and then we can make decisions with that stronger mindset versus having emotions, making a decision out of emotions, and we'll have better outcomes. You see what I'm saying? Because I think a lot of,
Absolutely.
especially with us men, I feel like a lot of times it's okay to be emotional, but it's not okay to make decisions while you're emotional or through because of or through your emotions. You know what I mean? So that's the reason why I have that. But as a podcast as a whole, what do you think?
I think the like you said earlier, the organic nature of the podcast is fantastic.
Okay.
Not having it just run through questions like you said, wait till I'm done answering that question and moving on to the next one. I like the fluidity. It's great. It's great. I really I feel like you and I have now a friendship that feels like it's been a decade.
That's what I like to hear, man. What advice would you give me about the podcast?
Uh I don't know. I'm gonna watch some more so I get a deeper understanding. But as of right now, I think it is good unless you want to add someone to your podcast all the time, so you have someone to go back and forth to, like another host, a co-host,
Okay.
maybe a woman. I don't know.
Well,
Uh,
I do these other episodes. They're called Men and Women Dynamics and Relationships.
okay.
Basically, there's a lot of podcasts out there that talk about that topic, but a lot of times, if you watch them, is a man, women, and then there's men, and they're just kind of like bashing each other and arguing. So,
Yeah.
because of what my platform stands for, I don't allow that. What happens is each guest shows up with like three questions. I still show up with no questions. And basically, like let's just say you're on, you will ask a question to the panel, and all of us will answer that question in our own opinions. Now, obviously, you're a different man than I am, so you may or may not agree with what I say, but you're gonna also have your own perspective. And instead of arguing about and making me feel like I'm wrong for how I feel and what I think, you just ask questions to gain an understanding because you're gonna probably, I feel like the reason why I started that was because I feel like if we do it that way, it's gonna do nothing but breed healthier relationships, whether those relationships are friendly, platonic, or they're intimate. Basically, you'll be able to understand people. So when you come across somebody who thinks like I do, you'll have a better understanding of why they feel that way, how to deal with them and how to handle them versus becoming argumentative and then now you guys can't even be in a relationship, whether that's platonic or intimate, whatever it may be. But you can't have no kind of relationship because there's this lingering argument of disagreement versus just I might not agree with you, but I understand where you're coming from. You see what I'm saying? So
Yep.
if you're ever interested in being on that, just let me know. Um, but the last thing that I was going to ask you is, when people come in person, we have this jar where we pull a question out, and you're not here, but I'm going to pull one out for you. Um, and I'm going to ask this question. This question does not necessarily have to do with mental health. It's just a fun question.
Okay.
All right, give me 1 second.
Yep.
All right, let's see what we got. If we were to use months as well, first, before I ask this question, let me just let you know too. These questions, so what I do, and I'm gonna have you do the same thing. I'll tell you about it off the camera. But what I do is I have each guest, they write a question and don't tell me what it is, and they put it in here, and then that way there's always questions and that I don't know because I'm gonna
Okay.
after I do that, I'm gonna pull one from me and I'm gonna answer it.
Um,
So basically, the question is, if we were to use months as names, what month would you choose as your name and why?
it would probably have to be either June or August. And the only reasons why is June is my birthday. I'm born on the 19th. Um, I'm a Gemini, but I don't think I'm a true Gemini because I do not have an alter ego. My other ego is just my chaotic, controlled chaoticness. That's it. I am who you see I am. And that's exactly how I met my wife. I listed all the things that were wrong with me on the first date. I said, "Boom! This is what's me. A veteran, disabled veteran, felon, all these things." And we went on a date, and like I said, 12 years later, we're still together. So, just because I love summer, it would be either June or August. My wife's birthday is in August. Is on June 12th. Um, which ironically shares a friend of mine here. I'm sure you recognize what that is there. And if you don't mind, I'd like to mention his name if it's all right with you. Major Thomas Kennedy. He was my major during my time with the 82nd Airborne Division, and unfortunately, he shares his death day with my wife's birthday. So it's a very difficult day for me to celebrate. Him and her at the same day. So I do a little celebration for him in the morning by myself, and then that's it for that day. And then it's all her. So only reason June and August, July don't sound cool. So uh, that's
How do
it.
you say your last name?
Huh?
How do you say your last name?
DiPietro.
July DiPietro.
Yeah, no, don't sound
Nah, nah, nah.
good.
So the question that I got, and I actually know this handwriting, so I know who wrote it. But if you could go back in time, what age would you go back to? Why and what would you do differently?
You
Oh.
could do a whole new podcast on that.
All right, what age would I go back to? Well, hold on, let me see. What age would I go back to? Why and what would you do differently? Dang, mom. That's my mom who wrote this. I know her handwriting. Um, I'd go back to when I was honestly, I'd go back to when I was 11. And the reason why is because when I was 11, there was a Father's Day that happened, and my stepdad, who just like you, I didn't really have a relationship with my biological father, and my stepdad raised us, and I always longed for my biological father to be a part of my life because like you, he was incarcerated, um, and this particular Father's Day, I don't know why. My mom wanted me to tell my stepdad Happy Father's Day, and I told her no, and I said he's not my daddy, and I believe that I cursed at him and like just like kind of like bucked up at him and everything, and we got into a fight, like a fist fight, and um, no anybody watching this, no knock on him, he defended himself, and he reminded me that I was an 11-year-old. And I need to keep my hands to myself. He pretty much taught me some rules of life in one day. Um, and basically, I hit him like 2 or 3 times, and then he hit me once, and it was over. And it's okay. Listen, anybody who's watching this, if you try to judge him, don't, because that was what taught me a real life lesson of being a man. So what would I do differently? I'd tell him Happy Father's Day for two reasons. One, because yeah, that was a big guy. But no, truthfully, truthfully, what would I do different? I would tell him Happy Father's Day. And the reason why I would tell him Happy Father's Day is because he was my father. And as a adult now and a man who has dated women who have kids, built relationship with kids, and then those kids get ripped from you. Um, I understand how difficult it is to be a quote unquote stepdad or just be a stepdad, or a positive male role model in kids' life that's not yours, and then how that can affect you mentally, you know. And he was there for me forever, you know. So, and he's still living. He just lives on the East Coast, and I live on the West. So that's what I would do. So, all right, man. Look, at this point in time, this is when I like to switch roles.
Yeah.
We're gonna be on Jason's TV. You get to allow the guests to ask me a couple questions. And for all you guys watching, I have no idea what he's about to ask me. So this should be interesting. Shoot.
All right. I'm trying. I'm
Oh
thinking
no,
real
go ahead. Go
quick.
ahead.
I'm thinking real quick. Um, I guess my first question is, do you have any pets?
Like pets, like animals.
Yeah. Yep. As support.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I have a he's about to be 12-year-old Chiweenie, which is a Chihuahua and a Dachshund. I actually acquired him. He was Me and my ex were split up in 2014, and she got him as a baby, as her like a I guess you could say emotional support animal, I guess you could say. And he took a liking to me. We got back together, and then he took a liking to me. And then when we split, he didn't want nothing. I'm gonna say he didn't want nothing to do with her. He just really wanted to be with me.
Sure.
And we've been through things. I mean, I'd go to prison for this guy, dog. We've been through some tough times. And then so what I did was I sent him to this training when he was mm, he had to be about 4 years old, to where he could be. It was like behavioral school and a school where he learned how to be an emotional support animal. All right, and so what he does is, and it's not just to me; it's to anyone. Um, if you're in a room and you see him sitting on somebody's lap, it's a high probability that that person is dealing with something. They just haven't told you. He picks up on body energy, um, and body language. And like for instance, like with my niece, that was like his best buddy. Like when she would come around, he more times than not, he would always flock to me in every situation. But when she would come around, he would literally flock to her, like, and he'd cry when she leaves and stuff like that. So I have him. I have my fiance's dog as well. He is a Ace. Don't get mad at me if I think he's a deer head Chihuahua. This guy's like
Okay.
he's like three pounds, the most scariest tough guy in the world. Like he literally will bark at the door from the back of the house, and then as soon as you get close to him, he'll be like, "Arr, arr." So yeah, I have two dogs.
All right. That was an important one because you nailed it on the head. Pets are huge emotional support, even if they are not trained. If you do a good job yourself at training them, they will pick up on your emotions. I have a 12-year-old German Shepherd that was trained when we got her, and I now have a 3-year-old Coonhound Pit Bull mix that has also been trained for an emotional support animal, and he does the same. He'll go to whoever in the house seems as if they need a little more attention and curl up next to them. Um, and it does feel great. It is one of the happiest things in the world. I have two cats too, and I have my one right here. She's dead staring at me. I don't know if she'll run, but she's dead staring at me while we're doing this. She don't ever leave my side too. She's been with me since the German Shepherd. So I have two cats and two dogs, and they're all raised like a flock here. So it that's very important. If you don't have a huge support system, if you have the means to do so, try to get a pet. Um, my next question is a little tougher. All right. What does complacent happiness look like to you?
Okay, explain complacent happiness. So that way I know exactly what you're asking me.
Sure. Like you said earlier, happy wife, happy life, fake it to make it. Do you feel as if there's a point in the alpha male's life? Because I've noticed a few with me. After a certain amount of years, does that complacency fall into place? Instead of happiness, it just becomes complacentness.
Mm.
So, just for an example, after the 7 year mark of both my prior marriages, I just became complacent. Was no longer happy. Was just there as an entity.
So like being like in that aspect, like in a relationship, you're saying like just being like you're comfortable but you're not happy.
Correct.
Okay, and then so your question to me was what does ask your question again. Go ahead.
Yeah. What does complacent happiness look like to you?
I feel like that's hard for me to answer only because I would never accept that. I'm very big on the relationship aspect. I'm very big on letting my partner know when we first start dating, like, hey, like I'm not going to change you. I'm going to evaluate your behaviors and as you should do for me. And if I
Mhm.
find things that I'm gonna evaluate each behavior on these pretenses right here. Is it something that I can or cannot live with? And if I cannot live with it, I'm going to be honest with myself first, and then I'm going to be honest with you because I don't want to change you because I don't think that's fair, and I also don't think that if I have to ask you to change, that you're going to actually that change is going to be permanent. I used to believe people didn't change, but I believe people can change if they want to, but you have to
Mhm.
want to, right?
Yep.
So, but if I had to say, what does complacent happiness look like for me? I think it would be me not progressing at all as a man. I think it'll have very little to do with my significant other and the people around me. I think it would be something internal because I'm really big on progressing. Like how you said, you should learn something every day. I think
Mhm.
that we all, no matter, we never have I think in our minds, we always move the goalposts, right? So, like, the goal might be to start a podcast and to get 500 subscribers. Let's just say that, right? Once you get that 500 subscribers, it's natural that now you want 1,000, right? So I think that for me, complacency would be me getting that 500 and then saying, even though I know subconsciously I want 1,000, me just being okay with just having the five and saying, hey, I reached my goal, you know, not growing at all mentally, emotionally, and just in life as a whole. I think that for me, that's what complacent happiness would be.
All right. And last but not least,
Mhm.
um, how do you feel about your self awareness?
I feel like now my self-awareness is high. I literally just had a conversation with my family yesterday. Um, and I was talking about how before I would react with emotions, right? And I talked about this on a previous podcast where I said it's not that I regret anything that I've done or not done, not regret anything that I've said or how I felt about a situation. Is how I reacted to and how I handled the situation that I regret. Right. I really believe the things that I said in those situations. I really feel that way. But I'm now more conscious and more adamant about taking the time to take the emotion out of it. I give you a perfect example without saying, too much. You know how like when you got multiple adults cohabiting, right? Um, there's a level of respect that has to go both ways, right? And so in the past, if people would live with me, I operated under pretenses of it's my way or the highway, because it's my house, right? And that caused me a lot of problems. So now what I do is I'll address the situation that has that or whatever my problem is. I'll address it with myself first. Is the problem or the situation, is it real? Am I fabricating this up because I feel a certain type of way? And then once I've understood those two and I come to a decision on those, then I will say, is this something that is important enough to where I need to bring it up now? Or is it something that let me see how it plays out if the behavior or the situation is going to change? And if I decide that it's something I need to address now, I'm not necessarily going to go right that second. I'm going to wait until I'm in a mind state to where no matter what I say to the other person, no matter what I say to them, no matter how they react to what I say to them, my emotions remain the same. You see what I'm saying? So
Yep.
I feel like my self-awareness now versus before is 180-degree different versus in a positive way, you know. So
So with that, were you able to bring down your hypervigilance because of your self-awareness?
for sure.
Awesome. That's what I like to hear. That's
Yeah,
what I
for
like to
sure.
hear.
All right, man. Look, once again, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. I say this all the time, but a lot of times the guests don't, I don't know for what reason they don't reach back out to come back on all the time. I definitely want to have you on. If you're open to being on my other type of episodes, the men and women dynamics and relationship, I'd love to have you on that one. But I definitely want to sit back down with you again and have this conversation. I feel like you have a lot of experiences that we didn't dive into, life experience that we didn't dive into, but you also have a abundance of intelligence, and you articulate it very well to a point where anybody who's watching can understand. So I would love to have you back on to have to continue this conversation if you'd like to do it. Uh,
Yeah, absolutely.
Before I do my outro or close this podcast out, if you could do me a huge favor, if you could drop your contact information. I know you spoke about that earlier. You go ahead and drop it, and then I'll also tag it on the post as well. But go ahead and
Sure.
drop your contact information for anybody who might want to sit down and talk with you.
Yep. If you want to get a hold of me, I'm going to give you my straight direct line. All right. It'll be there available 24/7. It's 609-221-0802. And if you want to email me, you can email me at jason.dipietro@uhsinc.org, or Jason DiPietro 0819 at iCloud.com. And like you said, you'll drop it. I'll give you the exact. I think I messed up my work email, but I'll give you the one we're done.
Well, like I said, I appreciate you coming on the podcast, man. And for all you guys who's watched this episode, I hope you guys learned something. I hope that you taking something from his story and all the things that he said that you can apply to your life to help you keep going. Because, like he said, nobody wants to be a part of that 145 who's grieving the lost person. And then also, you matter to so many people. You matter to this world. This world's a better place because you're in it. So do whatever you have to do to keep on living. And if you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe button. Follow us on Instagram at Mind Over Emotions, the podcast. Follow us on TikTok under the same handle. Shoot me a message to minor emotions the podcast at gmail.com. And we're out of here. Peace.
Later on.